What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another very important AMC update to bring all of you this evening. So what we're going to be covering in this update is, one, Melvin Capital is apologizing. We have this letter that they have sent out to their investors. And honestly, it really stinks if you are an investor in Melvin. That really had nothing to do with any of the investment decisions that were made. But it is kind of funny to see Melvin Capital kind of tucking their tails and admitting and apologizing over how wrong they have been over the last 2 years. Now, in addition to this, there is some data that we need to go over that does relate to margin calls. We're going to be looking at the margin debt chart and the kind of trends that we've been seeing over the last few months. Now, as you guys all know, the overall market has been on a pretty significant downtrend for a while. And the other thing you have to think about here is, remember, Melvin Capital's been having very, very significant issues to the point that they have to close down their fund. But did we ever see any notices of them getting margin called any day? Not necessarily. So what we're going to be taking a look at there is another thing to really take a look out for just going into the market over the next couple of weeks and months, because the overall system is very, very fragile. Now, in addition to this, we also have to cover the Ortex data on AMC and GME, some of the options data, and some technicals that we are seeing on this stock as well. So before we get into all of that information, if you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provide for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. And again, guys, we just revealed our trading algorithm today that trades by itself. You can see every single thing that it is doing with the 1348 strategy in our Discord. If you guys do want to check that out, the link is down in the description. So if you are interested, make sure you guys check that out as well. So AMC closed the day today at $16.96, up 44 cents, 2.66% on the day. Pretty solid way to start off the week. Then we come over and take a look at some of the Ortex data over here. We are seeing some things fluctuate around. The shares on loan is down a little bit, which there is a little bit of an explanation for why we could potentially be seeing this, but a little bit on that a little bit later. So we had about 1.25 million net borrowed shares today. This is pretty interesting here. 32.31% max cost to borrow. I did have to leave for a little bit today to go to class. This is the first time I'm seeing 32% cost to borrow. Very interesting. Now, the minimum is 0.91%. So when you're looking at this cost to borrow data, some of these shares are going to be going out at higher percentages, mainly depending on which broker they're coming from and what inventory that specific broker has. But that's a very interesting development that we have not seen in a long time. 19.23% estimated short interest. And when we come over to GameStop here as well, we had 9.25% max cost to borrow, 7.87% average, 18.78% estimated short interest, 100% utilization, 20.32 million shares on loan. Now, let's talk about this margin call situation and kind of what's been going on with the overall market. So walking you guys through this chart right here, the red line is the margin debt, meaning basically how much leverage is out there in the market at the current time versus the S&P. So you can kind of see by looking at this chart that the amount of leverage that is getting taken out kind of is driving the share price of the overall S&P and the overall market. The more money that is going out on loan, the more money that's coming into the market creates more demand, which is going to push up prices. And when we start to see the margin debt start to come down, either through fire sales of positions, Netflix, or for basically if you get squeezed out of a short position, that's going to be reflected in some of these numbers too. So what have we seen recently? Well, we recently just saw about a 4.3% decline of the margin debt in March. But over the last couple of months, when the margin debt was almost at $1 trillion, this number over here on the left is the margin debt, and it's in billions. So 1,000 billions is going to be $1 trillion, coming all the way down to 800 billion. That's almost a 20% decrease in the overall leverage that's out there in the overall market. What this suggests to us, well, one, the banking institutions that are providing this leverage, they're not going to be making as much money as we would have seen if the actual amount of money that was being loaned out was at the previous levels that we were seeing. But we also are seeing a wide scale deleveraging situation right here where, one, we're going to see a lot of selling pressure come into the market, which is exactly what we've seen. We've seen these trends before. Margin debt goes up, then we come into 2008, comes right back down. Then we see this slow kind of push up of margin debt before before we get into that 2020 drop over here, where we start to see when the pandemic was really kind of really spreading around and we were seeing the markets freak out. But this is something to keep a lookout for here. There are a lot of people that have their portfolios at risk, and they need to take that risk off the table, whether that's on their own volition or through margin calls. It's kind of the same result of a lot of selling pressure coming into the overall market. So when we look at all of this margin debt getting taken off the table, this is going to lead us into what's been going on with Melvin Capital. So I want to read you guys a couple of things in here. To our fellow partners, I am sorry I got this one wrong. I made a mistake. I apologize. As we noted in our letter last week, we tried to balance several objectives when determining a path forward. After they completely got blown out on their GameStop short positions, our focus was getting back to a size at which we could again generate industry-leading returns for our investors while retaining the team we have built over a decade. After exploratory conversations with several investors, in which we received positive feedback, I highly doubt that, Melvin, if you have to write this letter to your investors, we decided to move forward with the approach we outlined in our letter, which was switching from a focus on shorting to a focus on going long on stocks or betting with stocks going up. In hindsight, and despite our intentions, we recognize now that we focused on future returns and team continuity without sufficient consideration of your investment losses. So he's essentially apologizing here for what he did to all of these people and their money. Now, when we take a look here, this is kind of one of the parts of this letter here that's completely ironic and comical. Integrity is a fundamental value at our firm. My grandfather, Melvin, after whom our firm is named, lived by the highest ethical standards, and he imparted those values to me. Now, the problem here is that most likely they were trying to manipulate the price of a lot of these stocks down. So integrity is not really at question here. You got burnt. You got your basically bit in the butt through all of these short positions that you had. You tried to switch to a long-only fund. You sucked at doing that too. Now you have to give all your investors your money back. And the best that they're going to get right now is, I'm sorry. That's not acceptable in the finance industry. Gabe Plotkin and Melvin Capital at this point are basically all but finished. Now, in addition to this, I do want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing on the option chain and some of the technicals that we're seeing on AMC going through the rest of this week. So for this week right now, we have about almost 5,000 call contracts in the money with 96,000 out of the money. Not something that we really want to see. Again, in my opinion, you guys have heard this many times over the past few weeks. Right now is not really the time that I would be considering buying AMC calls, just because the overall technicals and the way the market's headed right now doesn't necessarily set up for a giant price move to the upside, even though it can happen, but those technicals would then come after we would see that move. So just kind of hoping for a move after you buy those contracts, not really the best thing to be doing. 15,482 puts in the money, 30,461 out of the money. So again, it's a little bit more weighted on the put side right now. And that's just kind of how the option chain is really looking at the current time. Now, when we come over and take a look at some of the longer time frames, specifically on AMC, what we've seen a few times is these tests of the 13 EMA making new lows, test of the 13, make some lows, come up to the 48, coming down to some new lows over here. What we really need to see here, and what we are starting to get, is this 4-hour MACD cross, which is a good thing to see. We need to see us recapture this 200 EMA, though, on the 4-hour time frame at $19.02. We start to see that, a 1348 cross to the upside. That could really set us up for another pretty solid move up. And then kind of flipping over to the daily time frame really quickly, what we're looking at here, well, the first step's going to be recapturing this 13 EMA on the 4-hour of $18.20. Then we could get that crossover to the upside, then come up to that 200 EMA on the 4-hour, or the daily, which is $24.39. First step, crossover on the daily on the MACD would be a pretty awesome thing to see and kind of give us the ability to start running up in price after we see those types of things start to occur. So that is going to wrap up this update on AMC. If you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So I hope you guys are having a great evening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.